So I just want to share something, I guess, out of where we're going. What is God saying? What I think God is doing. And really, there's a phrase that I want to talk about, and it's making. I don't know if you've ever done this, but part of my self-appointed job in my household is to pack the car whenever we go away on a holiday. I don't know, I just think I do a good job at it. So I do that, and I'm learning to involve more of the family, and as it gets bigger, there's more bags. And so Catherine does a great job at packing inside, getting everything done. And I'm like, okay, pack the car, we're going away. And I sort of think that's it. I've got it, I've done it. And then I realize you come back inside, because teenagers are involved. I've said, is that everything? That's everything. All right, so I come back inside, and there's like a mountain of bags and all the groceries that we need to take. And I'm like, this is where our personalities clash. I'm like, well, that's it. You can't take it. Just find something else. Maybe we can get takeaway. Like, we don't need to buy. We don't have to bring all this stuff. Do we need all those clothes? Do we need those toys? Do we need this? And Catherine's like, there's a way. I'm like, there's no way. There's no more room in this car. Like this, I will be holding a bag on my lap and driving our 7-seater with everything in it. Like, Catherine's like, nope. And so she will, on more than one occasion, pull everything out and repack the car. And it would be funny if it didn't fit, but somehow, I'm just really frustrated because it fits. Everything fits. Everything goes in. It's amazing. Maybe, but the way that if I had known everything and it was all laid out perfectly behind the car, I would know how to fit it in. But then don't talk to my kids because they're just like got everything on them as we're driving up to wherever we're going. But I think that's the same when it comes to church life. We can look at, okay, you want to join a connect group, or you want more money, you want to do this, I need to do that, I need to go here, I need to do this. We can look at our life and it looks like my car packed for the holiday, and you go, I've got no more room. I'm packed. I've got this thing, I go to here, I've got this, I've got that, I've got all this other stuff, plus the things I haven't thought of right now. And I know, we want to live for Jesus. If you're in this room today, if you're watching online, you love God and you want to live for Him as best as you can. And yet you realize there's challenges, there's things in our life that challenge us from making room for God. And I want to encourage you to think about making room for a few different things this morning. And so I know the tension. But I think it's what you put in first. And so if we can turn, we're going to 4 simple points from a story that you may know well. So from 2 Kings chapter 4, if you want to turn in your Bible there if you have one. One day Elisha went to Shunem, and a well-to-do woman was there who urged him to stay for a meal. And so whenever he came by, he stopped there to eat. And she said to her husband, I know this man who often comes our way is a holy man of God. Let's make a small room on the roof and put in a bed and a table and a chair and a lamp for him, and there he can stay whenever he comes to us. These people were well-to-do. Life was good. And yet they realized that this was this prophet who would come along, and they thought, let's make room for God. So on the top of their house, they put a room for this prophet. And I want to use that illustration to encourage all of us to make room for God in your life. Some of you are like, well, okay, this is the small point. I'm just going to go there for a moment. But we need to make room for God in our life. And what we looked at the beginning of this year, the theme was like, nothing matters more than Jesus. And at the end of this year, as we come to a close, is that still the cry of your heart, that nothing matters more than Jesus? Or is someone else or something else, that place of what we really call idolatry, or the affection that you have for someone or something else, is Jesus still number one in your life? And so I feel like God's asking us to think about what we're making room for in our life. And the first point is to make room for God. If you have a look at this next slide, there's a study done by the Global Youth Culture back in 2020, acckids.org. You can see the actual report there. And it's alarming because, if I can read it, This is the religious habits of Australian Christian young people. So, praying, 24% that never pray. 46 said that they do it weekly. Attending church, 28% said never. This is not unsaved people. These are, I love Jesus. 28% that they never go to church. 34% monthly or several times a year. Here's what I'm concerned about. Reading the Bible. 47% don't read the Bible. All I want to do, I mean, you can read the rest of the study. It's phenomenal and sobering as a parent. But if we could make room for God in our life, just a small room, just read the Bible, come to church regularly, that will make all the difference. If we pray regularly, that would be amazing. Because there's something about Jesus. The people who were far from God loved him. There's something about who he is and what he's done for us that should captivate everything, every part of our life, that we would go, nothing matters more than him. I'm going to build my life on him. And so I realize our lives are busy, but we need to think about making room for him in some shape or form. But the second point I want to, if we go on to the next part of the story, is to make room for generations. If those people that were doing whatever they need to do, that Catherine asked you to do, if you can get ready, that would be great. One day when Elisha came, he went up to his room and lay down there, and he said to his servant Gehazi, call the Shunammite. So he called her, and she stood before him. And Elisha said, tell her, you've done all this trouble for us. Now what can be done for you? Can we speak on behalf of the king or the commander of the army? And she replied, I have a home among my own people. What can be done for her? Elisha asked. Gehazi said, she has no son, and her husband is old. And then Elisha said, call her. So he called her, and they stood in the doorway. And about this time next year, Elisha said, you will hold a son in your arms. No, my lord, she objected. Please, man of God, don't mislead your servant. But the woman became pregnant. And the next year, about the same time, she gave birth to a son, just as Elisha had told her. We want to be looking at the next generation. We need to make room for generations. We need to make room for God, but we need to make room for generations. Not just like we did a phenomenal job last week, Libby, and the rest of the team in our kids' takeover. That was phenomenal. Brilliant. Seeing friends and family come and hearing them and preaching the gospel, doing all that stuff. In our youth ministry and all the different things. But equally, we need to think in terms of discipleship. That who am I investing into? And that's a big challenge for all of us. But then who is that person going to invest into? And who are they going to disciple and opt on and on and on? I think we need to, if we go to the next slide, we need to see generations of disciples in this church. Generations of disciples. We had 4 people say yes to Jesus. 1 from no church background, 2 from kids that were growing up in our youth group, and 1 from a recommitment. That's pretty good. But I'm not satisfied, if I can be really honest. Because really it's what it's about, making disciples. And so I would love us as a church to go on a journey of what it is to actually make disciples. That make disciples who make disciples. I think we have to think that way. And this is not programs. I'm not asking you to make a program in your life. I'm not asking for you to turn up to this teaching event or doing anything. This for us, for me, is a way of life. Is actually what I want to do. I had my birthday this week, and my kids said, what do you want to be known for? Or what was the question? Something like that. I said, I just want to make disciples. I love the church, but it's actually not everything for me. I want to make disciples. But that's what Jesus said. Go into the world and make a cracking church, that everyone will come to it and be amazed. It's not what he said. He said, make disciples. And that's how I think. And we need to think that way and make room in our life for other people for that to happen. So what we did in the beginning of the year, we went on a journey and grabbed a bunch of people. We opened up to everyone. If you want to come and join this team, be part of this exploration of what it looks like, we did. And we went on a journey. And so Catherine's asked a bunch of these people, they did this last week, and we just did a simple idea, was sitting at a table with 2 pictures, talk about pick them up and what it means in terms of your discipleship journey. What was it like at the beginning of the year, and what was it like having spent some time together? We got together once a month for an hour and a half and talked about it. And so I don't know how this works. I don't know which one I'm picking. Pick this one. Don't want we make them feel amazingly comfortable as they come on the stage?
Yeah, so the picture on the right with all of the people is kind of the impression I had of discipleship, speaking to the crowds and they'll be saved. And then through my journey over the last year and a bit, it's become a lot more apparent that it's not about that. It's just about those relationships, those one-to-one, and also meeting people where they're at. So the birds in the tree, being where the people are at and developing those relationships rather than just it being about the preaching to the crowds.
Great. Is this one? I'm not sure. That's Tim. Go for it, Tim.
Yeah, so the one on the left is how I thought of discipleship last year. It's the fruit market. There's lots of fruit. And just like discipleship, you go out and it looks like everywhere you go, there's opportunities, right? Like, I can be with discipleship with this person, this person, this person. But the thing about going to the fruit market for the first time is it's really overwhelming. You don't know what's ripe, what's not ripe, what you can use, what you can't use. And so even though there's a lot there, you don't actually know what you're looking for. You don't know what to get. And so you need that discernment. And then currently I'm viewing it like this roller coaster on the right, which, yeah, discipleship's a roller coaster. There's ups, there's downs. But I think the important thing is, you don't just get off midway through the ride, right? Just because you're in a low part in your discipleship with someone, it doesn't mean you just jump off. You gotta stick through it, stick to the end. And it's also important to note, it is a controlled ride. At the end of the day, God's got it under control. So don't jump off.
So I find it terrifying, that's that first one. When Luke and Catherine started talking about it, I thought, I can't do this. I just don't have a clue what I'm doing. But as the weeks progressed, I chose the second one because it wasn't as scary, but you can see that bouquet, it's not that spectacular. It's a mediocre bouquet, so I'm in the middle here. I'm still trying, still working it out. So.
Okay, so the first on your guys' left, is how I felt about discipleship a year ago, and obviously the one on your right is how I feel about it now. So a year ago, I was, I just graduated, but I was a school captain in a Christian school. You don't get much more surrounded by light than I was, right? But if you look inside the little building shed, our house, I don't know what that is. It's dark inside. It's actually not there. But now that I'm at work, I'm a tradie now, and so you know my boss, I'm pretty sure couldn't be any less Christian, and so it might be darker outside, but there's light inside. And the other thing is there's 2 buildings now, and through a year of youth leading, particularly running Connect and all that sort of stuff alongside other people. I've been able to really grow in discipleship and really actually be able to share light. And though it may be dark outside and darker than it was a year ago, I'm filled with so much more light and so much more confidence about discipleship.
We'll skip that one. Is that anyone here? Oh, we skipped that one. Is that it? Is there any more? That's it. Okay. The others, thank you somehow. The didn't make it, but can we thank all of these people for being there? Awesome. That really, it's what we've been trying to think about and to discuss. What is it like to go and make disciples of people, even when they actually haven't said yes to Jesus yet? You can disciple people, them towards faith, and we've been looking at all of that. And so I would love for us to make room for generations. But the next point is to make room for the future, or fight for the future. And I'll paraphrase the story for the sake of time. And so the boy grows up to some sort of age, suddenly says, "My head," and he dies, and they lay him down in the room upstairs where the prophet is. And the wife who's given birth to it, she's like, "Okay, well, this is not on." And she says to the husband, "I'm going to go and see this prophet." And he says, "Are you okay?" And she says, it sounds like, yes, everything's okay, but she uses the word shalom. She speaks life into a very difficult situation. And we need to understand that if we're going to make room for God, if we're going to make room for the generations, that it's going to take a bit of effort. It's going to take a bit of fight and resolve in your life to make this happen. And so she starts this out by saying shalom. When you read it and you go, what the heck? You're denying the future. No, she's speaking life. And she goes on and goes towards the prophet. And Elisha and Gehazi are there, and they're like, "What's going on? This looks like the woman. She's coming." And she comes to Elisha and goes to his feet. I don't know if we can pick it up. That's probably the best from verse 27. When she reached the man of God on the mountain, she took hold of his feet. Gehazi came to push her away, he's the servant, but the man of God said, "Leave her alone. She's in bitter distress, but the Lord has hidden it from me and has not told me why." I think there's an interesting point there, because there are mysteries and challenges in life that there is no cause and effect for that you can quickly see. When your effort to do what you need to do, we're always looking for, "Oh, it's because of this, that." He doesn't know. He's the prophet, and he doesn't know. God has not told me what's happening, which is a really interesting thing. I think that's important to understand, because she's sort of like wanting there, going, "I want you to do something about this." But the child's mother said, let me go back. "Did I ask you for a son, my lord?" she said. "Didn't I tell you, don't raise my hopes?" Elijah said to Gehazi, "Tuck your cloak into your belt, take your staff in your hand and run. Don't greet anyone and meet him on the way. Do not answer them. Lay my staff on the boy's face." And the child's mother said, "As surely as the Lord lives, as you live, I will not leave you." So he got up and he followed her. Gehazi went on and laid the staff on the boy's face, but there was no sound or response. So Gehazi went back to meet Elisha and told them, "The boy has not awakened." When Elisha reached the house, there was the boy lying dead on his couch. He went in, shut the door on the two of them, and prayed to the Lord. And when he got up on the bed and lay on the boy, mouth to mouth, eyes to eyes, hands to hands. It's weird, I know. As he stretched himself on the boy's body grew warm. Elisha turned away and walked back and forth in the room. And he got on the bed and stretched him out once more, and the boy sneezed 7 times and opened his eyes. Elisha summoned Gehazi and said, "Call the Shunammite." And he did. And when she came, she said, "Take your son." And she came and fell at his feet and bowed to the ground. And she took her son and went out. There needs to be, there are challenges. It's a very weird story. It starts off lovely, and then there's just strange detail here. But I want to encourage you, what happens in this thing, if we see 2 evidences of fighting. Number 1 is that she goes and does this. But we also see Elisha. He lies down and he does this, and he actually, it seems really strange, doesn't it? You look at the story and go, why would you do that? You know why he does that? Because he heard a story from his mentor, the person who discipled him, before he was taken away in a chariot of fire, that's what he did to raise someone from the dead. So in 1 Kings chapter 17, you can see Elijah, Elijah did the same thing. He laid down on this boy and he came back to life. And so you can see this story. The woman's come to Elijah. He's walking. He's got 2 kilometers to walk with her back to the house. And I think he's thinking, going, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? Because remember, God hasn't told him this is what you should do. God's told him, hey, I think you should have a son. That'll be blessing. As he's walking back thinking, well, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. What did Elijah do? That's right. He did that really weird thing. He lay on that kid and then resurrected. I'll give that a crack. Okay, I'll do that. Story, what you see is he's lying down and doing this stuff, and then he gets up and he's pacing around like it's not working. He's getting frustrated. He's got a bit of fight. It's like, let's do this again. I want to encourage you, church. We will have challenges. For our future, we need to fight. To make room for God, to make room for generations, to do what we need to do in the future. I want to encourage you. We need to fight. We need to have this, God has something. And the way we do that is to do what I did up here. We tell stories. This is what we happen. This is where we go. So we have a financial challenge, let's be really honest. But I also have been in this church a long time. And I remember where there was a time where we got rent-free. 7 years at the previous place that we were. 7 years. I remember the guy telling me, no, you won't need to pay rent. I'm like, it's weird. Are you sure? Yes. So we were able to save the money that we did to be able to do what we are here now. So I know that this is a challenging season financially for some of you, but I'm up for whatever we need to do. If I need to get another job or whatever, that's okay. God's still going to be in control. I'm not worried about the fact that he's not on the throne. He's still on the throne. God's going to do this. We're going to get through this season and come out the other side. Whatever we need to do in the meantime, cool. But we need to fight. I'm not just going to lay down, oh no. Come on. Some of you, let's get some fight and go oh, come on, what do you want to do, Jesus? What do you want to do? There's so many people that don't know Jesus yet, that could come to faith in our church. I thank God for the 4 people, but I want to see more. Can I even be really bold? Some of you looked at the expense of our rent and you go, wow, it is expensive. It is. And Kate's done a great job. I want to thank Kate publicly for doing a great work to get external hires in here, and it's been a great work, so thank you. But I'd like to, can we just throw caution to logic and normality just for a moment? I would love to buy our own building. I really would. Can we afford it? No. What planet are you on? No. But God does miracles. So I'm going to sow a seed and I'll see what God does. I'm not going to lay down and cry. I want to go, hey, I want to make room for God in my life. I want to make room for generations, but I want to make room for the future. And that means that we need to fight. That means we need to take a hold of this. We need to be like Elisha. It's like, well, that's not working. He didn't give up. He didn't give up. I probably would have done it once and went, that's just weird. That's all right. Who else told a story? What did they do? I don't know. Jump in. Maybe that'll work. I don't know. He's just like, no. You can see this passion in his life. They're like, come on. And we know we fight a spiritual battle. And there are spiritual battles that we need to face. So let's not just fall over in this thing, but let's say, God, you who began a good work, you'll be faithful to complete it. So I'm going to see this through. I'm going to have that resolve and tenacity to see what you want for me to do in this. Lastly, I'd love the worship team to come. I know I cut you off earlier, so you guys are fantastic. We're gathered around tables today because I think there's something profoundly important in this story that if you miss it, I mean, the resurrection is amazing. Don't get me wrong. The fact that this kid gets up, sneezes 7 times, why is that included? I've no idea, but it's funny. And he's there, and there's a resurrection story, and wow, that's amazing. But as a pastor, what I notice, because people come to me and go, this has happened. And I feel exactly like Elisha. The Lord has hidden this from me. I had no idea. Wow, that's awful. Like, stuff we just don't know. The fact it's there. But you know what I love? This is the beautiful story. And my last point for those that are taking notes is to make room at the table. He says in verse 30, to a devastated woman, not knowing the future, I will not leave you. I won't leave you. She's fallen at his feet and going, this is not fair. I told you not to get my hopes up. Up and down there. And he says to her, I won't leave you. So for 52 kilometers, they walk together. She's 2 kilometers. He's standing alongside her. And today, we are all around tables. And thank you for being generous in doing that. Because it is weird not to have rows. But I think sometimes church can feel like it is rows. We come in and lecture and here's the thing. But actually, what I want to encourage us to think around is tables. Is that we actually are a part of a community. This is a church, but then there's equally groups within us, and that we're gathered around tables because, like in this story, the miracle happened because he walked with her and did that 52-kilometer journey. And I want to tell you, some of you could be either part of that story. You could be the person going, I have no idea what happened. Walking. Tell me something. Encourage me. I don't know what to do. Or you could be the prophet. I don't know what's happening. I don't know what do we do. 52 kilometers is a long walk. What sort of happens in your brain over that time? Like, what are we doing? What we need to have is those great stories. And he's probably saying it's going to happen. And so, I thought it would be cool to finish off our service by making room at the table for each other. And so we're going to celebrate Jesus. He's the one that brings us together. And so there's the emblems. You want to break them open? We remember the fact that there is one loaf that was broken, all of us that would have hope and freedom and forgiveness. Jesus came to give us the resurrection, the life, the forgiveness, and we remember his body. And as we sit at tables where Jesus would have done this initially, can we just do something super weird? Because, people are sneezing 7 times, people are lying on top of kids. It's all random weird stuff today. Can we just do for a moment? Can you, without looking at this, just look at this, but can you just look at the people on your table? Just look around them. Like, they're people that we need to make room for in our life, in our heart, as we make room for God. Okay, I'm going to pray. And we're going to remember Jesus, his body that was broken for us, and we're going to drink and we remember his blood that was poured out for us. So, Father, I thank you for Jesus. We do what millions have done over many times. We pause and we stop in our life. We remember you. We remember you, Jesus. We want to make room for you. We want to make room for the people that will come after us, the generations to follow. For some of us, Lord, today it's a fight. And we look to the future and we know that you're able to do exceedingly abundantly above all that we ask or imagine. So we pause and we look to you. But as we're seated at this table, we know that we're not alone. We're part of this body. And so we remember you. And we eat and we drink together. In Jesus' name.